Hi, so we're going to play around with one-point perspective. As you know from your readings, one-point perspective means that the face of the object is directed toward you as the viewer. The first thing that I like to see in all drawings is a compositional frame. So I'm going to do that now. A compositional frame just creates a border so that your drawing doesn't go all the way to the edge of the paper. It doesn't have to be too dark, just something that indicates where your composition ends. Next thing for us to do is to draw our horizon line. A horizon line can be high on the page, in the middle of the page, or low on the page. Just remember that if you put it high on the page, you're not going to be able to fit many objects above the horizon line. So for the sake of this assignment and getting used to creating a one-point perspective drawing, I'm going to put the horizon line in the center of the page. Okay, it's important that you label your horizon line. I'm going to label it with HL. Now we're going to establish the vanishing point. We're going to put the vanishing point in the center of the composition just for sake of ease. Make it pretty big so that we can actually see it. Now I'm going to label my vanishing point with VP. Okay, the next thing for me to begin to do is to draw the objects that I want to include in the composition. And for this assignment, you need to have rectangular prisms, triangular prisms, and cubes. So we're going to start with the cube first. You're going to draw the face of the object first. So there we have a square which represents the face of a cube. Now we're going to draw a rectangle. Now I'm going to create a triangle. So now we've created the face of the objects that will represent the plane that is facing the viewer. The next thing for us to do is to draw our orthogonals. Orthogonals are the lines that recede back to the vanishing point that create the illusion of perspective. Orthogonals in one-point perspective come from the corners of the object that is facing the viewer. So I'm going to begin with our cube. Let me put my fourth one in. My cube. Okay, now when we look at these objects, they look like they're receding to infinity. They're going all the way back to the horizon line. Our next job as the artist is to go in and establish the correct depth of these objects. And this is an artistic decision. The cube can be a very shallow cube, the rectangular prism can be a very deep rectangular prism, and so on and so forth. The important part of this step of the assignment is to make sure that your lines are perfectly parallel to what you have established in your design. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the line that represents this corner here but back in space. It's going to share the same orthogonals. And if I were to draw the line like such, that would be incorrect because that line is not parallel to this line here, this line here, which are both parallel to the picture plane and the edge of the page. So now I've drawn a completely straight line. This line here represents this edge here, but back in space. Now I'm going to draw this line here back in space, and it will share the same orthogonals. Now I'm going to complete out the back side of my rectangular prism, like such. Now let's do the same for the cube. I'm going to make the cube shape. And now the triangle. The tricky thing with the triangle is to get the angle of this back line the same as the angle on the front. Like such. Now that I've completed my 3 objects, I went back in and emphasized the lines that represent the shape. I made them a little bit darker than the lines that are just the guidelines. It's important for our first few assignments that you leave the guidelines in so that I'm able to evaluate how well you're utilizing your vanishing point. It also helps me to figure out if things go wrong, maybe where they went wrong. For your assignment, you're supposed to give a variety of objects that are above the horizon line, below the horizon line, and crossing the horizon line, which is why I feel it's great to leave the horizon line in the center of your design so you have enough room to put objects above and below the horizon line. You're also required to give a variety of either transparent or opaque objects. Opaque means that you can't see through the objects, which is why I left out this back line here on my triangular prism. That means that I can't see through this plane here to that back line, so this becomes an opaque object. I'm going to make this rectangular prism an opaque object for us as well. So I'm being careful to leave in my lines so that if necessary I can follow these while I'm checking your work to make sure that they line up with this corner. However, because this is an opaque box, you then would not be able to see those lines. In addition, you wouldn't see your horizon line as well, so you would want to complete your horizon line out like such. So that becomes an opaque rectangular prism. I'm going to label these for you. In the final stages of your design, it's important to think about presentation. So remember that I'm looking for your compositional frame. I'm also looking for you to, excuse me, sign your work. I want you to sign your work in the margin. And then I want you to put the assignment that we're working on. So this is week 1, assignment 3. And that should be enough information for me. What this does is it helps me when I download everything to my desktop to keep everything organized so that I make sure that the right assignments are being associated with the right students. It's also important to follow the file naming guidelines so that things just don't get confused. I like to keep a very streamlined classroom so that it's very efficient when I go back through looking for specific assignments to grade and providing specific feedback.